In this moving video we tell the full story of Paul Walker, the star who won hearts as Brian O'Connor in the Fast and Furious franchise. From his sunny childhood in California to the fateful day that shook the world, we explore every detail of his journey. His passion for cars and racing on and off screen. His humanitarian work with Reach Out Worldwide. His special relationship with his daughter, Meadow Walker, and how she continues his legacy. The lasting impact of Fast and Furious and the tribute that immortalized his memory. Get ready for a story full of inspiration, adrenaline, and life lessons. Paul Walker was not just an actor, he was an example of humanity and passion for what he did. So, take the opportunity to leave your comment below and tell me what you thought. And if you like real celebrity stories and exciting stories like this one, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell and share it with someone special. Imagine the blue skies of California, the sound of waves crashing in the distance, and the vibrant energy of a child exploring the world. This is the setting in which Paul William Walker IV was born on September 12, 1973, in Glendale, California. From an early age, Paul seemed to have something special inside him. He wasn't just an energetic kid, there was a sparkle in his eyes that charmed everyone around him. Curious and full of questions, he explored the world with enthusiasm, always seeking to understand more about everything. Paul grew up in a simple family but rich in values. The Walker home was a loving place, where he learned early on the importance of humility, respect, and joy in the little things. Nature was an integral part of his life. He and his siblings spent hours outdoors, climbing trees, biking through parks, or exploring California's sunny beaches. This connection to the natural world would shape Paul forever, giving him a unique appreciation for simplicity and adventure. A special element in his childhood was his mother, Cheryl, who worked as a model. Paul grew up watching his mother prepare for photo shoots, which sparked in him a curiosity about the world of cameras. It was as if even at a young age he already had a natural connection with that environment. His radiant smile and innate charisma drew attention wherever he went. This connection became evident when, as a baby, Paul participated in his first commercial, starring in a diaper campaign. Imagine a little blonde boy with bright blue eyes, capturing everyone's attention with his angelic smile. That was the beginning of his relationship with the world of cameras. Paul seemed made for it, displaying an impressive confidence and calm for someone so young. As he grew up, Paul became a familiar face in advertising. He appeared in campaigns for clothing, toys, and other products, always stealing the show with his natural and charming presence. But for Paul, none of this was work. He genuinely enjoyed himself during photo shoots, jumping, running, and making funny faces, winning over everyone around him. Despite his growing fame, Paul never let it take him away from his true self. After each job, he would come home and play with his brothers in the backyard like any normal child. This simplicity was something that defined Paul from an early age and would continue to be a defining characteristic of his life. Despite his early prominence, Paul was just a boy who loved adventure and joy. But what he didn't know yet was that this early gift in front of the camera would be just the beginning of a long journey that would lead him to win hearts and inspire millions around the world. As Paul Walker grew up, his curiosity about the world didn't stop at the surface. He developed a special connection with the ocean, a passion that would shape much of his life. Fascinated by marine biology, Paul would spend hours watching documentaries by legendary oceanographer Jacques Cousteau. He was mesmerized by the images of the deep sea, dreaming of one day exploring this mysterious and vibrant world. Despite his busy schedule as a model and budding actor, Paul always made time for his studies. He would dive headfirst into marine biology books, determined to learn about corals, sharks, and the complex interactions of underwater life. For Paul, the ocean was a place of peace and magic, a refuge where he felt connected to something greater. This passion was so genuine that he even studied marine biology in college. Paul often said that if he hadn't pursued acting, he would probably be on a research boat, studying marine life and helping to protect the oceans. During breaks between shoots, he would take the opportunity to dive and explore the underwater world. The ocean wasn't just a passion for him, it was part of who he was. At the same time that he was developing his passion for the sea, Paul was beginning to build his career as an actor. After appearing in commercials and advertising campaigns as a child model, he began to take his first steps into the world of television. During his adolescence, Paul made small appearances in popular series such as Highway to Heaven and Who's the Boss. In these productions he showed a natural ability to play characters, conveying emotion and charisma even in one-off roles. These experiences were essential for him to gain confidence in front of the cameras. Paul was determined and knew he wanted to grow in his career. He stood out not only for his appearance, but also for his magnetic presence and dedication. Directors recognized in him a special talent, something that made him shine in any scene. In the 1990s, Paul began to venture into the cinema, showing that he was ready for bigger roles. One of his first jobs was in the film Tammy and the T-Rex, an adventure comedy where he demonstrated his charisma and versatility. Although the film was unusual, Paul shone in his performance, gaining more recognition. Another milestone was his participation in Varsity Blues, a teen film that explored the dreams and challenges of young athletes. In this role, Paul showed not only his talent as an actor, but also his ability to connect with young audiences, consolidating himself as a promising actor on the rise. Every project Paul did was like a piece of a larger puzzle. He was little by little building the foundation for something great. With each role he learned more about himself, what he wanted to convey through his art, and the impact he wanted to make on the world. As young Paul balanced his passion for acting with his love of the ocean, it was clear that he was a unique individual with talents and interests that extended far beyond Hollywood. This combination of charisma, determination, and authenticity was what would make him not only a memorable actor, but also an inspirational figure to the world. And do you know what made Paul Walker so special? Even as he became a global superstar thanks to his role as Brian O'Connor in The Fast and the Furious, he remained the same Paul he always was. Humble, authentic, and passionate about what he did. For him, success was never about fame or glamour. It was about connecting with people, telling stories that moved them, and sharing what he loved. And what he loved most besides acting was cars. Paul's passion for motors was real, genuine, and had been there since he was a young man. The roar of a powerful engine would make his heart race, and he had always been fascinated by high-performance cars. For Paul, cars were not just machines. They were works of art, symbols of freedom and expression. This connection was so strong that he didn't just act like someone who was passionate about speed, he was that person in real life. He owned an impressive collection of rare and exotic vehicles, carefully chosen to reflect his love of cars and his passion for speed. Among his most iconic models were the Toyota Supra, which also appeared in The Fast and the Furious, and a Nissan Skyline GTR, his favorite in real life. But Paul didn't just collect cars. He wanted to experience everything they had to offer. He would race cars, testing the limits of the machines he loved so much. It was as if the adrenaline of the racetrack was fuel for his soul. He would also spend hours in garages tuning engines, learning about mechanics, and even restoring classic cars. He wasn't just a collector, he was a true enthusiast. Even with such a vibrant passion, Paul used his connection to cars for more than entertainment. He would take advantage of car shows and auctions to raise money for charitable causes, showing that his passion could be a tool for good. And like everything he did, he wasn't an attention seeker. For Paul, the most important thing was to make a difference. This authenticity also shone through on the sets of Fast and Furious. Paul would often contribute to the racing scenes, helping the crew make everything more realistic and true to the car culture. He understood what the audience wanted to see because he was part of that world. Brian O'Connor, his character, was practically an extension of his own personality. Passionate about speed, loyal to his friends, and always striving for something bigger. The success of Fast and Furious not only made Paul Walker a global icon, but also solidified the franchise as a cultural phenomenon. As the films grew in scale, action, and excitement, Paul remained the heart of the series. His chemistry with the cast, especially Vin Diesel, and his dedication to his craft were evident in every scene. Yet even with all this success, he never strayed from his true self. Paul was the kind of person who would stop to talk to fans, get involved behind the scenes to help where he could, and continue to prioritize his family and friends above all else. He saw the franchise as a celebration of friendship and loyalty, values that also defined his personal life. And here's the magic of Paul Walker. He managed to be an action star and at the same time, a down-to-earth person. His role in Fast and Furious wasn't just a job, it was a lifelong pursuit. It was a passion shared with the world. Every scene, every dialogue, and every adrenaline-pumping moment was an extension of who he was. Paul Walker was much more than an actor. He was a symbol of authenticity, an example of how to follow your dreams without losing who you really are. His love for cars, his family, and the ocean made him a unique figure who still inspires millions around the world. And here's something to think about: what makes a person truly unforgettable? In Paul's case, it was the combination of talent, humility, and a heart full of passion for what he did. He didn't just star in movies, he lived a life that deeply touched everyone who was lucky enough to know him, whether in person or through his art. Paul Walker's connection to the Fast and the Furious went far beyond a contract or a script. For him, the franchise was an extension of his own passions and values, an opportunity to live what he loved and share it with the world. And that authenticity shone through in every scene, in every interaction with his co-stars, and in the way he dedicated himself to the project. Brian O'Connor was more than a character. He was a reflection of Paul Walker. They both shared an uncontrollable passion for speed and an unwavering loyalty to the people they loved. This connection led Paul to immerse himself in the role, bringing a level of authenticity that is rare in Hollywood. When Brian was speeding through the streets or demonstrating his commitment to the Toretto family, it was impossible to separate the character from the man behind him. Paul's success in the franchise also came from his ability to balance thrilling action with moments of heart and vulnerability. Brian wasn't just an adrenaline-pumping hero. He was someone audiences could relate to. This balance was a hallmark of Paul, an actor who understood that the true impact of a story lies in its humanity. As The Fast and the Furious grew in scale and popularity, so did Paul. Not only did he become a central figure in the franchise, but he also grew as an actor and a human being. Films like The Fast and the Furious 2003 and The Fast and the Furious 2009 highlighted Brian's emotional depth and allowed Paul to explore new layers of the character. Behind the scenes, Paul was the glue that held the cast together. He was known for his humility and for treating everyone as equals, from his co-stars to the crew members. He often said that The Fast and the Furious wasn't just about the cars or the action, it was about the people, both on set and on screen. The impact of The Fast and the Furious on Paul's life wasn't limited to his career. The franchise amplified his platform, allowing him to use his voice for causes he cared about. His passion for cars became a bridge to connect with communities around the world, from street racing enthusiasts to collectors and mechanics. In addition, Paul often used his fame to help others. He participated in automotive-related events, such as auctions and races, to raise money for charity. He saw his position as an opportunity to do good, something he deeply valued. Paul wasn't just an actor playing a car lover, he was a true enthusiast. He knew every technical detail of the vehicles he drove and had an emotional connection to them. His garage was a reflection of his personality, filled with unique models from restored classics to modern supercars. Among them were the Toyota Supra and the Nissan Skyline GTR, icons both on screen and in Paul's real life. He was also an amateur racer, often pushing the limits of his cars on tracks and in events. For Paul, driving was not just a physical experience, but almost a spiritual one. It was a way to connect with himself, to feel freedom, and to experience the thrill he so valued. Over the course of the franchise, Paul became more than just a character or a lead actor. He was the soul of Fast and Furious, the embodiment of the series' core values: family, loyalty, and passion. His chemistry with Vin Diesel and other cast members was so genuine that it transcended the screen, transforming the team into a true family. And here's what makes this story so special. Fast and Furious didn't just change Paul Walker's life, it also changed the essence of the franchise. His presence, authenticity, and dedication shaped what the series represents to millions of fans around the world. Paul Walker and Fast and Furious were inseparable. He not only helped the franchise become a global phenomenon, but he also left a piece of his soul in it. With every race, every stunt, and every dialogue about loyalty, audiences didn't just see Brian O'Connor, they saw Paul Walker. And that's what makes his legacy so powerful and unforgettable. Paul Walker wasn't just an actor with a passion for speed and adrenaline. He was a person who sought purpose in every aspect of his life. This search for meaning began with his love of cars, but it evolved into something much bigger. A genuine desire to help others and use his influence to change lives. Paul's passion for cars wasn't just about owning them, it was about understanding them, appreciating them, and living them. His personal collection was worthy of an automotive museum, filled with gems that would make any enthusiast's eyes light up. From restored classics to modern supercars, each vehicle in his garage told a unique story. Highlights included a Nissan Skyline GTR, a Toyota Supra, and iconic models like Ferraris and Porsches. But Paul didn't collect just for status. He knew every detail about cars, from their engineering to their on-track performance. Paul enjoyed going beyond being a passive collector. He loved being behind the wheel, testing the true potential of each machine at amateur races and car shows. It was not uncommon to see him in garages, working with friends to tune engines or restore vintage cars with the dedication of a craftsman. To him, cars were more than just machines. They were expressions of freedom and emotion. And Paul shared this passion with enthusiasm. He would talk about cars with a twinkle in his eye, explaining the intricacies of an engine or the design of a model with a fervor that captivated any listener. It wasn't just about speed. It was about the history, artistry, and engineering behind each vehicle. This genuine connection made him not only an icon in the automotive world, but also a deeply respected figure in his community. Despite his love of cars and the glamour of racing, Paul always had a deeply humanitarian side. He knew that his fame could be used for something bigger, and that's what led him to found Reach Out Worldwide, ROWW. This humanitarian organization was born out of his frustration with the slow response to natural disasters. Paul wanted to act quickly, be on the front lines, and bring direct aid to the communities most in need. In 2010, when Haiti was devastated by a catastrophic earthquake, Paul put his plan into action. He didn't just send resources. He went on the ground himself, working tirelessly alongside doctors, engineers, and other volunteers. Paul carried boxes of supplies, helped organize shelters, and listened to the stories of people who had lost everything. His approach was humble and down to earth, with no intention of drawing attention to himself. He was there to make a difference, not to be the star. What made Paul's humanitarian work so special was his authenticity. He didn't see Reach Out Worldwide's missions as a duty or a form of publicity. For him, helping was a natural extension of who he was. He believed that with the resources and platform he had, it was his responsibility to take action and inspire others to do the same. And here's something to ponder. How much more impactful would the world be if we all used our talents and passions to help others as Paul did? He wasn't just an actor or a car lover. He was an example of how to live a meaningful and purposeful life. Paul's love of cars and his humanitarian commitment may seem like two different worlds, but they were deeply connected. Whether it was his vehicle collection or his rescue missions, Paul lived with passion and dedication. He believed in doing things from the heart, whether it was restoring an old car or delivering supplies to victims of a disaster. This ability to combine passion and purpose is what makes his story so inspiring. Paul not only showed us how to live authentically, but he also showed us how to turn what we love into a force for good. Paul Walker wasn't just an action icon or a fast car enthusiast. He was, first and foremost, a genuine person with a heart, dedicated to doing good and caring for the people around him. In his humanitarian missions, Paul didn't just provide material aid. He brought hope to those who needed it most. Whether it was providing food, water, or medicine in areas devastated by natural disasters, he made a point of being there, leading by example and showing that even in the most difficult times, there was still solidarity. What stood out most? Paul never sought recognition for his actions. He worked behind the scenes, often without most people knowing the extent of his efforts. When asked about his humanitarian involvement, his answer was simple. He felt it was his responsibility to use the resources and platform he had to help. For Paul, doing good was not an obligation but a life mission. After the devastating earthquake in Haiti in 2010, Paul and his foundation Reach Out Worldwide continued to work in various parts of the world. Whether in climate disasters or crisis situations, Paul assembled a network of volunteers willing to act quickly. Under his leadership, the organization became known for its effectiveness in bringing direct aid to the communities most affected. What made Paul's work so special was his humility and commitment to human dignity. He believed that everyone deserved a chance, regardless of their circumstances, and his foundation reflected this principle in every action. Paul was not just a donor or organizer. He was on the ground helping to carry supplies, listen to stories, and most of all, provide comfort. If there was one thing Paul valued more than his job or his passion for cars, it was his daughter, Meadow Walker. From the moment she was born on November 4, 1998, she was the center of his life. Although his early career required a lot of travel and commitment, Paul always found ways to be present in Meadow's life, showing her how much she was loved and valued. When Meadow decided to move to California to live with her father during her teenage years, it was a moment that transformed their relationship. Paul adjusted his schedule, slowed down his career, and dedicated himself to creating meaningful moments with her. For him, being a father was the best thing that had ever happened to him. He wanted to ensure that Meadow grew up with strong values, understanding the importance of respect, empathy, and authenticity. Paul and Meadow shared simple but deeply meaningful moments. From walks on the beach to conversations about dreams and passions, these were the moments Paul treasured most. He made a point of introducing Meadow to the natural world, instilling in her the same love for the ocean and the outdoors that he had always had. He also supported her in every decision, whether it was her studies or life's challenges, showing her that she could always count on him. In the months before his death, Paul was closer to Meadow than ever. He was full of plans for the future, excited about making even more memories together. For Meadow, Paul was not just her father. He was her best friend, a guide, and a constant source of inspiration. After Paul's tragic death, Meadow took on the role of steward of his legacy. Today, she leads the Paul Walker Foundation, dedicated to continuing her father's humanitarian work and promoting the causes he held dear, such as ocean conservation and helping communities in need. Meadow not only carries on her father's name, but also his essence, a quiet, passionate force committed to making a difference in the world. Paul and Meadow's relationship is a powerful reminder that what ultimately matters most is the connections we make with the people we love. Paul's love for his daughter transcends time, and his dedication to her continues to inspire all who hear his story. November 30th, 2013. The day that shook the world. November 30th, 2013 started out like any other day for Paul Walker, but ended as one of the saddest days in recent memory. Under the California sun in Santa Clarita, Paul attended a benefit organized by Reach Out Worldwide, his humanitarian foundation. The goal was to raise funds for victims of a devastating typhoon that had hit the Philippines. Paul, as always, was at the center of it all, smiling, taking pictures with fans and friends, and demonstrating his commitment to helping others. The event was a reflection of who Paul was: authentic, generous, and passionate about important causes. Surrounded by people who shared his love of cars, the atmosphere was filled with positive energy. Among the vehicles on display, the red Porsche Carrera GT, belonging to Paul's close friend Roger Rodas, drew particular attention. Roger, like Paul, was a high-speed enthusiast, and the two shared a friendship based on a passion for exotic cars and adrenaline. Shortly after 3 p.m., Paul and Roger decided to test the Porsche. Roger, a skilled driver, took the wheel while Paul occupied the passenger seat. The roar of the engine caught the attention of those present as the car left the parking lot. For those present, it was just another casual demonstration of the power of such an impressive machine. No one could have imagined what was to come. Minutes later, tragedy struck. On a curve in a wooded area, the Porsche lost control, crashing violently into a tree and a pole. The impact was so devastating that the car split in half and was quickly consumed by fire. People nearby rushed to try to help, but the intense flames and debris made any rescue attempt impossible. Paul Walker and Roger Rodas died instantly. The scene of the accident was one of total devastation, and the news spread like wildfire. When Paul's death was confirmed, the world stopped. The news was so sudden and shocking that it seemed impossible to believe. Paul, who was the embodiment of energy, passion, and kindness, had passed away tragically and prematurely. It was not just a farewell to a movie star, but to a person who inspired millions with his authenticity and generosity. Fans from around the world responded with an outpouring of grief and tributes. In Santa Clarita, the crash site became a makeshift memorial. Flowers, candles, letters, and mementos flooded the area as people gathered to pay tribute to a man who touched so many lives. On social media, celebrities and fans shared heartfelt memories and words. It was clear that Paul Walker was not just an actor. He was a symbol of humanity. Paul's death also deeply affected the Fast and Furious cast and crew, who had always considered themselves a family. Paul's close friend Vin Diesel was heartbroken. He called Paul his brother and said he had lost a piece of himself. Jordana Brewster, who played Brian O'Connor's partner Mia, described Paul as a kind and inspiring soul. A visibly shaken Tyrese Gibson visited the scene of the accident in tears. At the time, production on Furious 7 was underway, and its continuation became a sensitive issue. After many emotional discussions, the cast and crew decided that the best way to honor Paul would be to complete the film as a celebration of his life and legacy. To that end, Paul's brothers Caleb and Cody Walker were involved in the filming, helping to complete unfinished scenes with the help of digital technology. The result was one of the most moving tributes in cinematic history. The final scene of Furious 7, set to the song See You Again by Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth, has become an unforgettable moment. It showed Brian O'Connor taking a separate path from Dominic Toretto, representing a farewell to Paul Walker and touching the hearts of millions of fans. Although his death was tragic, Paul Walker's legacy lives on. He left behind much more than just blockbuster films. He left behind a message of humanity, passion and dedication to what truly matters in life. His daughter, Meadow Walker, has taken it upon herself to preserve his legacy by leading the Paul Walker Foundation and continuing the humanitarian work he began. Paul Walker was not just a movie star. He was an extraordinary human being whose light still shines through every memory he left behind. He reminds us that even in a world full of uncertainty, we can make a difference, live with purpose and cherish every moment. For Fast and Furious fans, Paul Walker was never just an actor, he was the beating heart of the franchise. Paul embodied the values that made the films a global phenomenon, embodying friendship, loyalty, and adrenaline. His death in November 2013 not only shocked his friends and colleagues, but also created an outpouring of grief and tributes from around the world. The outpouring of love and longing was extraordinary. Caravans of cars decorated with R.I.P. Paul Walker stickers lined the streets of several cities. At the scene of the accident in Santa Clarita, a makeshift memorial was formed with flowers, candles and emotional messages from fans who wanted to pay their last respects to a man who touched so many lives. The place has become a symbol of the profound impact Paul left. The impact of the tragedy was even more devastating for the cast and crew of Fast and Furious. To them, Paul was not just a colleague, he was family. Vin Diesel, who always called him his brother, publicly shared his grief, describing Paul as an angel and saying he felt like he had lost a part of himself. Jordana Brewster, Michelle Rodriguez and Tyrese Gibson also expressed their sadness, highlighting Paul's kindness, humility and humanity. At the time of the accident, production on Furious 7 was underway. The loss put everything on hold as the cast and crew debated whether to continue without him. After many emotional conversations, they decided that the best way to honor Paul would be to complete the film as a celebration of his life and legacy. To that end, Paul's brothers Caleb and Cody Walker took on a crucial role. As physical likenesses of him, they helped complete the scenes Paul left unfinished. With the help of visual effects, the team was able to recreate moments that became a touching tribute. When the film was released, Furious 7 was much more than an action movie. It was a farewell. The final scene, which showed Brian O'Connor driving alongside Dominic Toretto before taking a different path, accompanied by the song See You Again, touched millions of fans. Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth's song became a farewell anthem, representing not only the loss of Paul, but also the profound impact he left on the hearts of all who knew him. Paul Walker's legacy lives on, and his daughter Meadow Walker plays a central role in keeping it alive. In the wake of the tragedy, Meadow took the lead in creating the Paul Walker Foundation, a project that reflects the values Paul held dear. The foundation is dedicated to continuing the humanitarian work Paul began, supporting communities affected by natural disasters and promoting ocean conservation, a passion of Paul's. Today, Meadow is a determined and resilient young woman. She frequently shares memories of her father, showing the world the impact he had on her life. Through the foundation, she ensures that Paul's name is remembered not only as the star of Fast and Furious, but as someone who made a difference to so many. Her dedication is a clear reflection of the love and deep connection she shared with Paul. Paul Walker was so much more than a talented actor or car enthusiast. He was a generous soul, someone who used his platform to do good and inspire others. His passion for life, whether it was acting, cars, or his humanitarian causes, left an indelible mark on the world. The impact of his loss is still felt, but his memory lives on in the actions of those who continue his work, like Meadow, and in the hearts of the millions of fans he touched. Paul reminds us to cherish family, seize every moment, and use our passions to make a positive impact on the world. Here's a thought: how can you turn your passion into a force for good just like Paul did? May his story continue to inspire us all to live with purpose and authenticity. Paul Walker had a deep connection to the ocean, a passion that transcended his life and inspires to this day. Through the Paul Walker Foundation, his dedication to marine conservation lives on, encouraging new generations to protect the oceans and its creatures. For Paul, the ocean was not just a place of beauty. It was a symbol of harmony among all life. His admiration for Jacques Cousteau and his fascination with marine biology continue to guide environmental conservation initiatives in his name. In addition, Paul's humanitarian spirit is echoed in the actions of Reach Out Worldwide and the Paul Walker Foundation. He believed in the power of direct action and would not hesitate to roll up his sleeves to help those in need. Every humanitarian mission undertaken or supported by these organizations reflects Paul's commitment to leaving the world a better place, reminding us all that small gestures can create big changes. The Fast and Furious franchise plays an essential role in keeping Paul Walker's memory alive. After his death, the character Brian O'Connor remained a central presence in the narrative, symbolizing not only the spirit of the series, but also the indelible mark Paul left on the history of cinema. Brian's farewell in the seventh film was an emotional tribute that touched millions of fans. The final scene, where Brian and Dom drive side by side before going their separate ways, accompanied by the song See You Again, became a pop culture landmark. This song, which encapsulates the feelings of loss and celebration, became a global anthem, keeping Paul's memory alive. In subsequent installments of the franchise, Brian O'Connor continues to be mentioned with reverence. Whether in touching dialogue or special events involving Meadow Walker, Paul's presence is felt in each new film. He remains not only a character but the soul of the series. Paul Walker was more than an actor or a car enthusiast. He was a person who used his platform to do good and inspire others. His life reminds us that no matter how busy or successful you are, there is always time to help, care, and live with purpose. Paul left a legacy of kindness, passion, and authenticity. He lives on in every smile his foundation helps create, in every Fast and Furious scene that reminds us of his presence, and in the memories of millions of people touched by his story. And now the question is, how can you turn your passions and talents into something that inspires and helps others? Paul Walker showed us that the true impact of a life is how we touch the hearts of those around us. If you enjoyed this moving story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to follow more inspiring stories. Let's celebrate together the lives and legacies of extraordinary people who teach us to be better every day. See you in the next video.